Health number one. I'm going to help you optimize your health in this talk. As always, sharing a perspective you're not going to find anywhere else. Some really powerful information that's going to change the way you think, change the way that you look at the world, and hopefully help you live longer, live healthier, move better, perform better in your work, make more money, perform better socially, perhaps have offspring that are healthy and live longer, feel better throughout your life. There's all kinds of reasons to optimize health. And put health number one. And let me tell you that I am someone that you should listen to when it comes to the subject and the topic of health number one. I'm a practitioner of healthy living, of which there's few people in the world who has healthy routine as I do. And by a number of metrics, I'm in that top percentile for health by my age in terms of activity level, certain athletic feats like the number of pull-ups I can do, blood oxygen level, resting heart rate, different things put me in a category at the top. I will say I don't know how long I'm going to live. I don't know if I'm going to stay healthy forever. There's things that are out of our control, but I'm doing things that put the odds greatly in my favor. And I'll also say that it's a journey. I don't have everything figured out. I'm not going to pretend to have everything figured out. But in this particular subject, I'm significantly more advanced than most people. And in my opinion, even considering, even beyond most of the experts in the health and fitness space. If you find this video valuable and you're hyped for it, comment it down below and share it with somebody else. Now, I promised you I'm going to go in a different direction than you're normally going to get. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on what is generally considered to be the 4 pillars of health. Having a protocol on optimizing sleep, optimizing nutrition, optimizing physical movement or exercise, and optimizing sunlight, getting it at the right time and the right amounts. I'm not going to talk so much about those things, not because they're not valuable, but because everybody talks about them. You probably know the basics, and I don't think it's particularly helpful because it doesn't tell you how to actually do these things, right? It's hard to get 8 hours of quality sleep, 2 hours of REM sleep, 2 hours of deep sleep, 95% sleep efficiency. Why is it so hard? Why? Why is it so hard? Excuse me. Clear my throat here. You know you're supposed to get a certain amount of physical activity in low grade, high intensity, and heavy movements, and a variety of exercises. Why is that so hard to do? We know that we're supposed to catch the sunrise and the sunset. Well, not everyone knows this. Sun is extremely underrated, and I put it with these other pillars as being just as important in terms of regulating our hormones, and it's closely associated with high quality of sleep as well. So why is it so hard to get the sunlight? In terms of nutrition, you know you're not supposed to eat certain junk food, you're supposed to eat high quality food. Well, why? You know that, but why aren't you doing it? Why aren't people doing this, right? So I'm not going to focus on these pillars, and there's other pillars you could put in there in terms of stress management, perhaps how you breathe and other things. I'm not going to go into detail on that. I've done that to death. You can find information on that everywhere. It's really good information, but I'm going to go in a direction that, in answering the why, I'm looking at other issues, questions that I have not seen anyone talk about. And I believe that people don't talk about because one is because people aren't there, because it's extremely rare and difficult, and 2, it's because it's unpopular, because what I'm going to share with you is extremely rare and difficult. However, let me tell you that it's possible before I get into it, and also let me tell you that it's worth it, and it's also the reality of things. And if you don't like it, it sucks, but I'm at least going to share the truth with you about optimizing health. And when we talk about optimizing health, we're talking about putting health number one, not being healthy, but optimizing health. If that's your goal, is to optimize health. If your goal is not to optimize health, then it doesn't necessarily matter as much. But when you're optimizing health, you're optimizing your body chemistry to optimize feeling good, right? So let me ask you these questions. Or rather, let me steer the conversation in this direction. It is possible to be healthy and improve your health living almost anywhere. It is not possible to optimize your health. It's not possible to optimize your health living anywhere. Let me say that again. It's possible to be healthy and improve your health living almost anywhere. It's not possible to optimize your health living anywhere. It is possible to be healthy and improve your health while working a 9-to-5 and you're commuting to it. It is not possible to optimize your health while working and commuting a 9-to-5. We're going to get into this in detail, and I'm going to help you with these. These things, again, it's not popular because it sounds like it's just for the elite, and it is just for the elite. We're talking about being a top 1% man, top 1% person, okay? It is possible to be healthy and improve your health on an average or low income. It is not possible to optimize your health on an average or low income, right? So the subjects that I'm going to go into here are, there's certain places that are more conducive in terms of where you live. There's certain places that are more conducive to optimizing your health, and having a huge amount of time freedom is important to optimize your health, and having a good amount of financial resources are important to optimize your health. So I'm telling you, this is what's unpopular here, and bear with me because I'm going to explain why it's so important. This will just plant the seed for you, and maybe a little bit in this video, but in other videos, perhaps I'll help you along. And let me stop for a moment here and say that I have no product to sell you. I have nothing to sell you. I'm doing this just to be helpful and because it's a way for me to synthesize what I'm learning and improve my own understanding. So what I'm saying is, to optimize your health, you need to make an unusually high income in an unusually small amount of daily time and live in a desirable place that other people want to live in, that's conducive to health. Yes, it's doable. Now let's get into the details of why this is important. Let's start with the location, okay? So it is difficult to, you can't optimize your health if, say, you live in Flint, Michigan, right? Compared to where I live in rural, somewhat rural, we'll say it's rural Hawaii, okay? If you look at the blue zone studies, people who live the longest on average, almost all of these populations live very close to water. Oftentimes it's rural, but it's usually close to the ocean or close to the sea. Not just rivers, but typically close to the ocean, close to the sea. We'll get into why that's important. Or they live close on the mountains, close to mountains, or both, often both. Mountainous region near the ocean, right? Furthermore, oftentimes it is possible to be healthy in a crowded urban setting, but it's easier in a more rural setting. So I'm telling you, it's easier, not just easier, but necessary if you want to optimize your health to leave a crowded urban setting that is inland, and ideally to be in a mountainous area and or coastal area that it doesn't need to be totally rural. It could be outside of the city, but the population studies show that that's beneficial. And why is this? Well, for one, pollution. If you're in a crowded urban setting, you have pollution, you have lower air quality. Being near the ocean typically improves the air quality, goes a lot beyond air quality. There's certain not magical, but extremely healthy properties of swimming in the ocean, of being in the ocean, having access to the ocean, access to fresh seafood in your diet, perhaps, and yeah, the rural, a lot of it's about pollution, but a lot of it is about the lifestyle that can come with it. You wake up in the morning, you walk on the beach, you go for a swim. Or for sunset, you just walk out on the beach. So I'm also not saying not only should you live in, doesn't need to be Hawaii, it could be in it should possibly be an island though, or Or it could be coastal California, it could be coastal Florida, it could be coastal Costa Rica. And think about these places, they're associated with status for a reason. If you're in the Cayman Islands, if you're in the Canary Islands, if you're in islands off of the Hawaiian Islands, perhaps the Caribbean, coast in general. But I'm suggesting not only should you live in these places, but you should own property on the water. There's a reason it's super expensive. There's a reason it's really high status. And if that sounds a million miles away, just put it in the back of your mind for now. We're going to come back to that. And there's steps you can take to get there. You can live in the place and you can commute to the natural beauty. You can rent. You don't necessarily need to own. But if you're living in a crowded urban population that isn't really around accessible natural beauty, you're going to have a hard time optimizing your health. Like, you want to be able to walk your dog on the beach. You want to be able to take your dog on hikes. Have a dog. Dogs help you optimize your health, or your family, your friends, and all this. So location is hugely important, and that's not something. Have you seen anyone else talk about that? If you want to improve your health, you may need to move to one of a certain area that has these characteristics. I haven't seen that discussion, but you could try to convince me that that's not important. Like, make an argument. Try to even come up with an argument that holds weight, that says, no, like, you can be in the middle of New York City and be like the healthiest person who lives in New York City. No, you can't. It doesn't hold weight. The pollution, the climate. Yeah, let's get to climate. So we're talking about location, not only being island, not only or coastal, not only, but also being. It doesn't necessarily. It helps if it's warm. It doesn't necessarily need to be warm, but what's important is that it's helpful. It doesn't need to be, right? But it's helpful if it's closer to the equator. Now, the reason for this has to do with sleep, sun exposure and sleep circadian rhythm. It's less about getting enough sun, vitamin D, and it's more about having a regular sleep schedule. Viewing the sun at sunbreak and sun end, sunrise and sunset, is important for regulating the hormones, setting your circadian rhythm, and then when you sleep well, because you view the sun, it has all kinds of other benefits. I don't need to go into why sleep is important here. It has numerous benefits. It's extremely important. So if you live in Alaska has huge amounts of depression and suicide. Why? Well, one of the reasons is because of it's so far from the equator. The people's circadian rhythms are thrown off. They have 3 hours of sun in the winter, or close to that, and all day sun in the summer. And you get used to it, you adapt to it, but there is an advantage to having consistent sunrise and sunset. The closer you get to the equator, or as you move near the equator, the difference between winter and summer sun schedule is decreased. So I'm telling you should live on a tropical island. Another reason, as well as the quality of fruit you have access to. If you live in a warmer place, you have less reliance on imported food, and you have less reliance on processed food, packaged food, because you have access to animal products, especially from the ocean, tropical fruit especially, and vegetables if you're into that. I'm not really going to get into nutrition here, other than to say that when you live closer to the equator, there's a longer growing season, so you have a lot more access to 365 days of fresh food. Food typically has a nutritional decay as it over-ripens or goes bad, and there's a huge nutritional cost of processing food. So there's numerous reasons why living on, again, say Hawaii, maybe certain coastal California or Florida, Caribbean islands, a lot of these longer living populations maybe lived in Okinawa, coastal Costa Rica, Greek islands, and so on. Now, you have to, if you want to optimize your health, you have to think about where you're going to move, and it might mean uprooting. You might not want to hear that. It's not necessarily popular, but hugely important. Now let's move on. The two issues left are, well, the big issue is making a great income in a small amount of daily time investment. But these are two separate subjects. One is income and the other is time, but we'll tie them back together. Let's talk about time. Having time freedom. Few people have it. So when I tell you that you need to do that, it's like, well, it's not for me, it's for someone else. Yeah, well, it can be for you. It's possible. Again, most people aren't even trying to prioritize health number one. It's not the goal of most people. But if you make it a goal, these things can become possible in time. So let's talk about what is a somewhat close to an optimal routine for health. And this is what I do, especially Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. First, I get up with the sun. As soon as the sun breaks over the mountain, I walk outside, I have my water with electrolytes, I stand in the early sunshine and I look at and around the sun and adjust my eyes. I typically, since there's mountains, it's a slightly later sunrise, and I don't look directly at the sun at sunrise. I think you could, if you're catching it come over the horizon. I'm more likely to look at the sunset as it sets over the water, but that's trivial. Now, so in the winter, I might be getting that first sun closer to 8 a.m., and in the summer, I'm getting that first sun closer to 7 a.m. So there's a little bit of deviation. Now, after I get that sunshine, I may do a couple things in terms of writing in my journal, whatever, but pretty much soon after that, I'm out walking in the sunshine, walking down the beach with my dog, tossing a ball, wading into the water, going for a swim, doing breath hold swimming, talking to people on the beach, come back, I'm chewing hard gum, drinking herbal tea, do heavy weightlifting, still in the early sun, mid-morning sun now, maybe doing 100-pound deadlifts, squats, pull-ups, a variety of different movements, bands, stretching, and then maybe take creatine or take stuff like this, and typically after that I begin my work day around maybe 9:30. Now, under what conditions do you need to do this, right? Why do I not see anybody young on the beach? It's all retired folks. Is it because they don't want to do that? Is it because they don't value it? It's because if you have to go do a job, whatever in the world that job is, and you don't have the time freedom, and health isn't the number one thing, and you, like, nobody's there because they're commuting to work, right? If you have to commute to work, and you say you need to commute to work at 8 a.m., well, you can catch the sunrise in the summer, but the winter you're going to miss it. And it's going to screw up your circadian rhythm. It's going to screw up your hormones. It's going to screw up your sleep. Then it's going to screw up your nutrition. It's going to screw up your exercise routine. So, and again, if you live in somewhere far from the equator where it's, say, 5 a.m. and noon, it creates a huge difference. But in order to have a year-round, relatively similar routine where you have a couple hours in the morning and you're planning around the sun, you need a huge amount of time freedom, right? Now, furthermore, what is healthy is in the heat of the day, maybe between 1 and 3 p.m., after the hard work of the morning is done, testosterone peaked in the morning, it's on the decline, you broke your fast, you either had breakfast or you had a lunch. I'm not going to get into intermittent fasting or whatever, but you're other than to say that your dietary schedule also has to do with your work schedule, where if your work schedule is set up in a certain way, you may not be able to intermittent fast in the way you want, or you might not be able to eat as often as you want. So having freedom and time also opens up your ability to eat as you want to eat. But the point I'm making is there's times when it's appropriate to take a nap in the midday. Could be a 15-minute nap. If you're sleep deprived, there's times to take a longer nap in the midday. But even just laying down, putting up your feet, reading a book, slowing down your heart rate, allowing the blood to drain out of your feet, improving your circulation, it has a lot of benefits. How many people get to take a nap in the midday whenever they want? Not very many people, because they have to go to work and have a certain kind of work schedule that prevents them from taking naps. And again, you might not want to take a nap every day, but having the opportunity and the option is valuable when it comes to putting your health first and prioritizing your health, because sometimes even if you try to optimize, you won't get as good sleep, or you might be extremely active and your brain just wants to take the nap. It's good for you. So we're going to come back to the end a little bit about this, but in terms of how to actually do this, but you need a huge amount of time freedom. And as well, like they say, they have recommendations of like 30 minutes of exercise or whatever. Well, I believe what's optimal is much higher. Our ancestors walked 10,000, 20,000 steps, maybe some of them 10 miles a day. It seems to me that having a huge amount, you're generally moving most of the day. Maybe you take a nap here, you sit down there, that's all right. You have a little bit of high intensity activity, you have a little bit of really heavy activity, and you have a lot of real low grade activity. Well, you cannot do that with any job. And also, if you're commuting to a 9 to 5, how much time do you really have left over, right? So what is optimal is maybe you have this morning routine where you get the sunshine, you walk on the beach, you swim in the ocean, you do the stretching, you do have the heavy weights, and then you also have low grade stuff in the evening, and perhaps you in the late afternoon play competitive sports. For me, it would be go surfing, play basketball. A lot of the time, actually, after the weights, I'll go surfing. But point is, again, if you want to optimize your health, you cannot do it with a 9 to 5. It's not, by definition, it's impossible, because optimization means putting it first at the expense of everything, other things. So health number one, time. You have to take control of your time. Now, the last thing or subject that's at issue here is financial resources, the amount of money that you have and the amount of money that you make. Again, it's possible to be healthy on a budget, but it's not possible to optimize your health on a budget for a number of reasons. First, there's diet. So diet, I will tell you, I'm not a licensed nutritionist, but in my opinion, from what I've seen, everything that I've experienced, the key to having a healthy diet is not what you're not eating, it is what you're eating. And the highest quality food is more expensive. It's beyond most people's reach. So say, for instance, you have local pastured fresh steak for lunch, and you have 1.5 pounds of meat, maybe you have some tropical fruit. You are not going to have to resist temptation and craving for anything. You're going to be so satiated, you're going to be so satisfied. If you're getting the electrolytes that you need, you're not going to have salt cravings for salty fried foods. If you're getting the right supplements, it's going to, again, save you from a lot of cravings, because your body knows it's missing something, and it triggers to the mind and cravings for certain things. So it's not as simple as eliminating processed foods, eliminating the junk food. It's like, what are you replacing it with? The healthy food, which is expensive and beyond most people's budget. You can get ground beef in 2023, organic ground beef in Hawaii. or pasture ground beef for $8 a pound. But high quality steak cuts anywhere from $15 to $30 a pound local. You eat 2 to 3 pounds a day of meat, plus local fruit is expensive, especially if it's organic. You could have a $50 food budget eating at home, just trying to optimize your health. It's not, you don't need to be a billionaire, you don't even need to be a millionaire, but the average person probably can't have a $1,500 a month food budget just for themselves, right? It goes beyond food, there's supplements. It goes beyond supplements, like you improve your sleep by either having AC, if you live in a warm place, temperature control, whether that's AC heating or a bed cooler. That's expensive. The device is expensive. The energy bill can be expensive. You may sleep better if you have silk sheets because they have cooling and warming properties. Silk sheets, a Silk King sheet's like $700. A set of silk sheets. It's expensive. What else is expensive? That has, okay, certain things like fitness trackers, perhaps getting massage, fitness equipment or fitness memberships. Food's definitely the big thing, and this is the one that's probably more achievable, which can kind of put the puzzle together, because if you make decent money, you don't, like, you need an extreme amount of time freedom. You don't need an extreme amount of money. You need good money, reasonable money. So if you make like a decent income on a very little amount of time, that would be optimal. And again, here's something unique I have to offer you. A lot of people go wrong where they make a lot of money in a short period of time and they just work more and they want to make more. Like, you get so much diminishing returns when it comes to working for money. Working on your body and putting health first is work, and it's more important work. It benefits you and society in so many different ways. So, so let's talk a little bit about this. Like, obviously, to relocate to a tropical paradise and live on the beach is out of reach for most people right now. And how do you make a lot of money in a small amount of time? Okay, well, I don't have a full blueprint here for you, and I can't give you that to you. Again, I have no product to sell you. I have no back end here, but let me just give you some advice and some ideas. And say, like, there's a lot of different things that you can do with your time. If you have unlimited time, you can volunteer, there's a lot of different social groups you can be a part of. You can work with people who need help in some way. I like to volunteer on a farming. You can, there's different things you can do for social connection that's important. When it comes to having time freedom, for the most part, it means pulling yourself away from social connection. Because if you have a lot of responsibility and people are looking to you for orders, you have to adhere to some kind of a schedule. And I'm not saying you cannot adhere to some kind of a schedule. It's important to adhere to some kind of a schedule. I think an optimal work routine after doing all this would maybe be working from like 9:30 a.m. till noon or 1 p.m., maybe something like that. Monday through Thursday, you make all your money in 12 to 15 to 20 hours, and you can maybe sneak in other work. Sounds ridiculous, but I'm doing it, and I've done versions of this most of my adult life, and I'm telling you it's possible. And it's possible in a number of business models. But the point is, it means relinquishing a lot of responsibility, which means there's a lot of things you can't do in terms of the sort of jobs you could have. Like, you can't really be a doctor or a nurse and do these things. And if you want to be these certain professions that you cannot optimize your health, and it's not that it's unhealthy, but like there's certain schedule expected of you, right? That's okay, but if you want to optimize health, for the most part, it's narrowing you down to online business. Again, I'm not selling you on a particular online business. You could have, I'll talk briefly about the different models that I've had, but they're always changing. What worked 10 years ago isn't necessarily the best thing today. But I started off farming engagement and producing content, selling a product for somebody else. And that was all about getting attention and entertaining people. But that was a way to, at the time, I wasn't making enough money to do this, but I did have enough time to do a lot of the other things. But I wasn't making enough money to live in the more desirable place to optimize health. But that's how I got started. And that included streaming as well. But if I had stuck with that, it may be possible that I could have gotten here. I was also in my early 20s and didn't stick with it. But certain business models will work longer. I also had a subscription service. This one worked great. This, again, there's a lot of moving parts to this, and when it comes to setting up, there's times when you have to work more, and I wouldn't ever say sacrifice your health, but you can't sacrifice as much for your health during these times of building, because money is really important. I will tell you, money is really important for health and relationships, and it's how the world works. You could be mad about it, you could embrace it. But I had a subscription service, serving a niche, competitive Magic the Gathering players. They pay $100 a month or whatever to be part of community, receive coaching, training, other resources, delegate everything. And there's times where I worked a couple hours a week, and then I got paid. And this one was a doubling of my income. So that set me up to move to the more desirable health location, which is Hawaii. For me, it doesn't have to be Hawaii. Again, there's all kinds of places in the world that fit this criteria. So that worked for me. And then what it is now, and to me, this is the best one by far, although I don't recommend it for most people because it's extremely difficult. But if you're intent on doing this, trading is really good because it has the least responsibility and the biggest ease of scale and the highest potential income return. The top traders get paid like professional athletes. It's wild. Like, I've experienced making $40,000 in a day. And I'm only a couple years in, right? So that is a way for me now to, okay, how do I take that, raise an income and improve my health, whether that's having more, taking the next step in my diet, consulting to improve my understanding of my body, getting more massage, whatever it is. But trading is a really, really cool business model. It is extremely basic. You don't need the marketing skills or the sales skills or to have any of the staff necessarily. It can be all you, and it scales almost infinitely. It's amazing. There's other ones that I've heard of. I don't know how well they work. I haven't done it. Having a marketing agency where you do B2B, a fulfilled by Amazon service, a software as a service company where you have a software that people pay a subscription on. What else could there be? Info products, different things like this. Those are the only, in my opinion, the only things that are possible to give you so much time freedom and give you a good income too. And then again, like if you don't want to work online all the time, you don't have to, especially with something like trading. But even if you run a more traditional online business, you can do a lot of delegation and just kind of check in and do focus stuff and work on building things and putting the right people in places, and maybe you don't need to spend that many hours. But if you lacking the social fulfillment, like part of health, I don't go too into this, is having a healthy social life and having friends. And what's the point of being healthy if you don't have people to enjoy it with? Friends to go on your walks and your surfs and your workouts and your play your sports with, and eat your meals with. So you have all this time. Part of optimizing health is trying to have like 6 hours of social time a day. Another number that's like, damn, okay, 6 hours of social time on top of all this. Well, um, that can be, the day is long. There's a lot of things. When you don't have to work a 9 to 5, it's a long day, and there's a lot of different things that you can do, different social experiences you can put into your day. So that's it. Like, you have to, if you're not there, don't worry, though. It's possible to learn how to make a good income, and from a very small amount of daily time investment, move to a desirable place, and do this without sacrificing your health to figure it out along the way. It might take a while to get there, and then the outcomes you get are you're healthier, you feel better, you look better, you get better social attention, and it's going to help you make more money because you're going to be sharper. And if and when, it's going to make it more likely that you're able to have offspring, and more likely that those offspring are going to be particularly fit and healthy and be able to have their own offspring. So there's all kinds of reasons why we want to do this. If you want to optimize health, you cannot do it with a 9 to 5. You cannot do it just anywhere in the world, and you cannot do it on a budget. So, sorry, it's not as simple as eating better, getting more sleep, and more sunshine, and more exercise, because all of these things are at odds with people's typical struggles with time, money, and location. So, yeah, if you have any questions about that, comment down below. If you found this useful and valuable, comment down below and share it with somebody. Again, I'm not doing this for money. I'm not running any ads. I'm not trying to I don't need to do this. I'm doing this because I know I have something unique and valuable to share. I know that nobody else is really teaching this like I am, and I also know that I'm legitimately, in many metrics, a world expert on this because of the practice I have in my own life, and different health metrics that really put me at the highest. Again, I could die tomorrow. I could get sick. I don't know what's going to happen, but I've stacked the odds in my favor. So share it. Send it to somebody, and especially somebody who's in a position to make the jump. Like, if you or you know someone, or you and your friend, like, you're starting to make good money, or you're starting to have some success with online business, like, think about this as a destination that you may want to get to. Okay, that's all. Appreciate you. Much love, and look forward to seeing what you have to say in the comments. Peace.